Have you ever walked away from a conversation and replayed it for hours? Maybe your boss made one sarcastic comment, and suddenly your entire day felt ruined. A stranger left a rude comment online, and somehow they're still living in your head that night. Someone ignored your text, and now you're wondering if you said something wrong. Here's the strange part. The person who upset you has probably already moved on. They're eating dinner, watching TV, or sleeping peacefully, while they're still controlling your emotions without even being there. Most people think the problem is disrespectful people. Stoicism says the problem runs much deeper, because the greatest power anyone can have over you isn't making you angry. It's making you believe your peace depends on them. And once you understand why that happens, you stop giving people access to your inner world. The first mistake is believing that people directly control your emotions. It feels true. Someone insults you and you feel angry. Someone rejects you and you feel hurt. Someone praises you and suddenly you're confident again. It seems obvious that they caused your emotions. But Epictetus challenged that idea nearly 2,000 years ago. He argued that what disturbs us isn't the event itself, but our judgment about it. Think about two co-workers receiving the exact same criticism. One goes home convinced they're terrible at their job. The other writes down the feedback, improves, and forgets about it before lunch. Same criticism, different emotional outcome. What changed wasn't the event. It was the meaning each person gave it. That's where emotional control really begins, not by controlling people, by controlling interpretation. But here's the question most people never ask. If your emotions come from your judgments, then why do certain people trigger you so easily? Because every trigger points to something you're protecting. Someone calls you lazy. If deep down you're insecure about your work ethic, that comment hits hard. Someone insults your appearance. If your confidence depends on how others see you, the insult sticks. Manipulative people rarely create your insecurity. They discover it. And once they know what you desperately need, approval, respect, attention, validation, they know exactly where to apply pressure. That's why Stoicism spends so little time trying to change other people. It focuses almost entirely on changing dependence. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that another person's actions belonged to them. His responsibility was his own character. That's a completely different way of looking at conflict. Instead of asking, "How do I stop people from upsetting me?" ask, "What am I depending on that gives them this much influence?" That question changes everything. Now, this doesn't mean becoming emotionless. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about Stoicism. The goal isn't to feel nothing. The goal is to stop becoming someone else's emotional puppet. Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Most people react before they've even thought. Their heart races. They yell. The rest of the drive is ruined. The Stoic creates one small gap. Just a few seconds. In that space, they ask, "Do I have to accept this first reaction as truth?" That pause is where freedom begins. Because once you stop reacting automatically, you start choosing your response instead. Seneca warned that anger grows the longer we rehearse an insult. Think about how often you've replayed one embarrassing conversation over and over until it felt worse than it actually was. The original event lasted 30 seconds. The suffering lasted 3 days. Not because of the event, because of the story you kept telling yourself. So the next time someone disrespects you, separate facts from interpretation. The fact might be, "They interrupted me." The interpretation becomes, "They think I'm worthless." Those aren't the same thing, and confusing them gives other people power they never actually earned. This becomes even more important in today's world. Social media rewards emotional reactions. News headlines compete for outrage. Algorithms profit every time you lose control. The calmer you become, the harder you are to manipulate. That's true online. It's true at work. It's true in relationships. And it's true in leadership. Have you ever noticed who people trust during a crisis? Not usually the loudest person, the calmest one. When everyone else is reacting emotionally, the person who stays composed becomes the one others naturally follow. Calm isn't weakness, it's credibility. But there's one final lesson that ties everything together. The thumbnail says, "React to nothing." Taken literally, that's bad advice. Stoicism doesn't teach silence in every situation. Sometimes you should speak. Sometimes you should set a boundary. Sometimes you should leave. The point isn't to never respond. It's to never surrender the decision to your emotions. Your response should come from your principles, not your impulses. That's the difference between being controlled and being self-governed. So the next time someone insults you, rejects you, ignores you, or tries to provoke you, remember this: they're presenting you with an impression, nothing more. You decide whether to accept it. You decide what it means. You decide whether it deserves your attention. And every time you make that choice consciously, you take back a piece of your freedom. Because real power isn't having the last word. It isn't winning every argument. It isn't proving people wrong. Real power is reaching the point where someone else can no longer decide what kind of person you're going to be today. The moment your peace depends on your character instead of someone else's behavior. No one controls your emotions anymore. You do.